everybody, it's Michelle LaVore and
Devin LaVore coming at you.
And we're so glad that you're here. So today we're going to be going over Act 2, Scene 10. But before we go into that, we're actually going to be doing our Genesis chapter 1, verse 14. So we're going to be covering both of those today. So prepare yourselves to be amazed.
It's going to be
and it will be really awesome.
Totally went Meet the Robinsons on me. Prepare to be amazed.
Yes. And but yeah, so and before we do that, we're going to just say a huge thank you to everyone who continues, as always, to give to us. Truly huge blessing. And
you really can't put it into words,
you really
can you?
Can't. It's like
it's like glory to God. Like, how are you doing this?
Yeah.
How is this possible? Why? What's going on here?
Yes.
And God's like, it's the glory of God, let me tell you.
Exactly.
It's the glory of God. I have chosen to do it this way. And because I've chosen and you followed, you get to see what happens.
Yep.
All right, well, I'm going to just keep following then.
Yes.
Just as long as you lead me to a P1 at some point, I'm good. I'm good. No, I'm just kidding. But seriously. No, I'm just kidding.
So thank you for all your support, and we are support.
That's just my dream car. It's just
I
I love that car. It's the only car McLaren has made that's worth anything.
Yes.
But anyway,
side note,
you better keep going because you know supercars are on the table. You better clean it up, wipe it up, because I'll just keep on talking.
But yeah, so we are support based, so if you would like to give to us, you can. We have the PayPal link below, and you can just click that.
Yeah.
So like I said, today we're going to be doing both the act and then also the Genesis day
Day 14
verse we're on.
Yeah.
And so we're just going to start there, Genesis chapter 1, verse 14.
Okay, you're gonna just jump in, huh? You just pushed me into the pool, huh? All right, cool.
Start swimming.
And God said, "Ooh, that's a good jump right there, isn't it? That's a good place, a diving board." Woo. Anyway, and God said, "Let there be lights in the expanse of the heavens to separate the day from the night, and let them be signs and tokens of God's provident care, and to mark seasons, days, and years." Okay, so because we have like so much that we could share, I'm really going to do my best to just stick to my notes. But because the Lord was just telling us, like, so Lord, what is it? What's going on? And so the lights, and like we said in our previous video, the fact that the Lord went outside of the earth. I mean, we're talking verse 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19 all have to do with outside of the earth. So all these next videos that we're getting ready to release on these days are all like heavenly related things. They're all heaven related, all like, and I'm just like, I don't know. I'm just like, whoa, this is going to be a really great week coming up because we have the Lord's talked to us about different levels of glory and all that. And one of the levels of glory that He's spoken over our family was this heaven level. And I'm just like, oh, okay, what's that? And it's like, it's level 4. Isn't that interesting? And then I literally just caught that.
It is.
This is day 4.
Yeah.
And our heaven level is level 4. Wow. You need the Lord just to show you, hey, there's a fork next to your plate. Oh, there is. This is amazing. If he hadn't shown me, I would still be using my hands or using a spoon, anyway. But you know me, I'm Grug from the Croods. Anyway, so the signs and the tokens of God's provident care, that really stuck out at me and everything. And it was a pretty long drawn out God time, but I'll give you the bullet points. Does that sound good? And it really felt like, because we know that the lights that He put in the sky were the sun and the moon. Well, the sun is what it is, but the moon is actually not a light. It actually reflects the light of the sun. The sun by itself is just a ball of dirt. You know what I'm saying?
You mean the moon?
The moon. That's what I meant. Thank you. Thank you. The moon is a ball of dirt. The sun is just a huge ball of gas up in the sky. Anyway, who knows where that's from? Because that's an easy one right there, right? But I really felt like the Lord said, the sun, these two lights, the sun and the moon, the sun represents wisdom, and the moon represents revelation. Now, in our, daytime and nighttime, it's like the daytime represents the kingly time we're going into. The nighttime represents the priestly time that we're literally is drawing to a very big, huge close right now. And I'm like, okay, but I know that going forward, there's going to be a marriage of the priestly and the... So it makes sense, because this whole journey, when you're in the wilderness, you really don't need much wisdom. Hey, that's a viper. Don't play with it. That's a scorpion. Don't touch that either. That's cactus. Don't hug it. It's not friendly. That's about the extent of wisdom you need in the wilderness. You don't really need much, because it's like you just don't. When the Israelites came out of Egypt, they didn't need like a bunch of wisdom. What that was a time for was hearing from God, having His heart saturate your heart. It was a time of immersion in revelation of the one who just brought you through all these divine miracles and craziness. It's a time of intimacy and relationship.
Yeah.
And it's like it's almost like it's a courtship. It's a betrothal time. It's just put aside all the other stuff. Let's just me and you. It's just me and you time. That's all it's about. Now as we get married and we go off into life and we're doing things together, now you need lots of wisdom for lots of different things, because you need to know when and how and with who and all that stuff. But when you're in the wilderness time, in the evening time, during that moon phase, you know what I mean? You just need revelation.
Yeah.
It's when you go into the king time, the day. That's when you need the wisdom. And I felt like the Lord said these two governing signs, these are the two governing signs that God's presence is with you, leading you. So in your world of favor, where you have your future ahead of you and your past behind you and all those elements that we've talked about in the previous videos, like outside of all of that is God's heart feeding you wisdom and revelation. And I felt like the Lord said that's like, here we go. It's on my notes. Revelation and wisdom help you to understand what to do and when to do it. Both of these are critical in our quest for understanding our times and seasons of life. And one of the things that the Lord said to me was like that it's a constant thing, meaning these things that I'm going to start revealing to you, they're outside of your world. Your world events, all that happens in your world events can't change these things that I'm getting ready to reveal and show you. For example, my heart of wisdom and revelation to you will not stop. And it's like that Jeremiah 33:20-21 is like, if you can stop the day and night from happening, then you can stop my revelation and my wisdom from coming to you, And I felt like the Lord gave me this Isaiah 59:21, where He says, "As for me, this is my covenant or league with them, says the Lord. My spirit who is upon you, and who writes the law of God inwardly on the heart, and my words which I have put in your mouth shall not depart out of your mouth, or out of the mouths of your true spiritual children, or out of the mouths of your children's children, says the Lord, from henceforth and forever." Meaning, this is my choice. I'm taking you up to another level to show you what I'm choosing to do that nothing on earth can change. I'm choosing to do this. This is my covenant with you. Do you accept it? Like, yes. We pray for the full-blown portion of it every single day. So I really felt like that I know that's a short one because God knows what he's doing. He's like, I know what you guys are going to share in that video, so I'm just going to make it nice and sweet, simple.
Yeah, well, and it really is just, this is like the beginning. And I know the Lord just has so much more he's going to be continuing to share on these verses, but I feel like it was just kind of this, all right, let's just start here. Wisdom and revelation, and
you're gonna have my spirit and my word always with you.
Yeah, and
it's gonna govern your life. It's gonna govern your times and your seasons and your everything. Any questions? That's kind of what it was like, right?
Yep. And so it's like, all right, so this is what I really think, like, it's it's kind of if the Lord, he's a great speaker, because he's like, all right, this is what we're gonna cover. So in these next few days, we're going to be talking about wisdom, we're going to be talking about revelation, and we're just going to really unpack it and see more of it, and see just that, this is what governs your heart. Yeah. I'm the one who governs your heart. And so...
well, and it kind of takes you back to Galatians, where it's like, be led by the Spirit. And the Spirit leads you into all that Jesus has said. So there you go. You got your wisdom and you got your revelation. You got your sun, moon. What are the stars? Oh, we're getting ahead of ourselves.
So that is basically just day 14, verse 14 of Genesis chapter 1. And so we'll be continuing on with that over the next few days. But now we're going to kind of transition into just Act 2, Scene 10. From the restoration play. For those that don't know, the Lord has had us in a restoration play since last year. It started April 13th of 2020. The Lord kind of just showed us we were entering into a time of restoration, and we call it the play because we just had this vision of basically the curtains on the stage opening, and it was just like, this is what the Lord's starting to do. And so we are now into Act 2. Each year is one act. And so we are now into Act 2. This is Scene 10. We count each scene as a full week. And then we just share what God has done during that week. And so that's what we're going to talk about now.
Yeah. Wow, that was very succinct, right? Like, wow, you need a hand clap on that one. That was very good. I was like, dang, girl, you need to do church announcements all the time.
There we go.
Maybe not. I wasn't feeling the spirit on that one.
I used to actually do some announcements.
You're really good at it. You're really good at some summation points and wrapping things up. Now, girl, why can't you do that when I tell you what's the book about? Say, so what was that movie about? Well, it started on this really dark street. I'm like, girl, after about 5 minutes, it's like, you just went through the first 5 minutes of the movie. I just want to know what it's about.
I know, I'm telling you what it's about.
Oh my gosh. Well, I believe there's a clear revelation for this week and what this week's been about. It's been about change. It's been about that third day resurrection. I'm complete with one thing. I'm moving on to the next thing. It's been about the number 42, the house arriving at a certain point where God is now ready to do some different things. After 3.5 years, Elijah got the word of the Lord. Okay, 3.5 years is up. Here, let's go do this. And then we have the Mount Carmel situation. After the fire came, there was a restoration of all things. God released the rain again, and people could it was so great for the whole nation. See, when God releases a blessing like that, it blesses believers and unbelievers. It just blesses everybody. It shows everyone, like, now I'm God now. Now, how are you going to live your life now that you know I'm God?
Yeah.
I'm not playing around with you. You know what I'm saying? I'm not playing. Here's God. He's like, I'm not playing around with you. I love you. That's it's like, I'm not playing around. Like, I'm serious about this love I have for you.
Yeah.
And if you're not serious about it, come on now. You just went through 3.5 years. You know. Now, for those of us who have been hidden in the mountain and all that stuff, safe from the judgment of God, so to speak, but But it's like, even us, we've been going through an internal, judging, an internal judging of the Lord. The Lord, this whole priestly time, wilderness time, the many different words that we use for it, and all of them apply to this past 3.5 years that ended on June 18th, 2021. There's been a lot of stripping and tearing down and gutting and revealing and exposure, and just like, if we were a tree, we'd be cut down to the little stump. It's like, what you gonna grow from that? A miracle. That's what I'm gonna grow from that.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're just poised for it. But it's like, we're kind of in that place now. And if I was gonna give one word to this restoration play this week, this Act 2 Scene 10, it would be the word fire. Because that has been a huge theme. And all the other things that we've talked about, even in the days of creation videos and everything, they really lend themselves to everything that the Lord's been revealing about what we're going to share.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess I could do a lot of talking in this video too.
You probably are.
I'm really missing our normal back and forth, because I get up and I do the days every morning. And so I end up doing the videos and sharing all this stuff. Here's my testimony today. Here's my testimony today. And you pepper it, you salt it with a few things. I'm just like, I don't really like you being an audience member. I really want you to just, get into it. But hey, but that's okay. This is what God's doing. You can just see, and even in the videos, he's doing a new thing, right? Well, this is really, really cool, because our son, our fourth born, Isaiah, he is what we have called the sign of the promise. From before he was born, the Lord was like, he's going to be a sign that I'm going to fulfill every single desire of your heart. The desires that God himself has put in there, I'm going to fulfill every single one. And we've carried that for, he's almost 4. He's going to be 4 here in less than a month. We've carried it that whole time. So basically for over 4 years, we've carried this idea. And it's like, okay, cool. And just everything the Lord has said about him has been just unbelievably true. Like, it's in our face every day. Like, how true. It's like, wow, this is amazing. And so during this restoration play, or not the restoration play, but the grand tour through the gardens thing that we've been doing with Genesis, he has woken up at exactly 8 o'clock, like 4 or 5 times. He did it this morning. He did it, I
think yesterday.
He did it yesterday morning. This is 6:17.
Yeah.
He did it on that day. And he's just like, he'll just wake up. He's like, Dad, what time is it? It's like it's like the Lord is literally waking this kid up. It's like, he's out. And he's just like, Dad, what time is it? Let's go look at the clock. Let's go see what time it is.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, buddy. And I take him, and it's exactly 8 o'clock. And when it first started happening, I was like, oh, wow, look at that. It's exactly 8 o'clock. Because we've gotten exactly 8 o'clock, 800s before. God's taken us through that prophetic time already, and we know what that means. And, is it H 800 or G?
I think it's
It's either H or G, 800. It just means fire. That's literally what it means, fire. And if you look at 801, it means the burnt offering. So 800 and 801 are talking about the fire on a burnt offering. And a lot of times the Lord will use 800 and 801 with us consecutively, simultaneously, one of those adverbials. Anyway. And he did that this morning. I flipped out. I was like, what is going on? Like, this is crazy. That happens once, okay, maybe twice, but like 4 or 5 times?
Yeah.
And it's always him.
Yeah.
It's always him waking up and saying, Dad. I mean, I got up at 7:33 this morning, and I'm just doing my God time. I'm listening to the Lord about the wisdom and revelation and, all that. And then I'm just talking with him about it. Because there's a lot more that goes on in an encounter with the Lord than just what gets shared. You get the, it's like I started with the cow, but you guys get the steak. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot that goes on between there. And he just popped up all of a sudden like, Dad, Dad, what time is it? Let's go look at the clock. And I was like, I wasn't even, the clock's literally right behind me, right there. And I was like, okay, I just go and I get him and I bring him out and it's 8 o'clock exactly. I was like, I'm done. I'm done. What exactly does this mean, Lord? What does it mean? And the Lord's like, dig. Come on, dig for it. That's what I did with the wisdom and revelation. He told me to dig. And I was like, okay. And so I got some revelation on that. And it was really, 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 really super good. But before that, I wanted to do the June 17th thing first. Because that was another morning. He woke up at exactly 8 o'clock. And I'm just like, wow. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of another dig time. You know, and also, you know, we get the 808 all the time as well, which is it's a sign for us from the Lord saying, hey, Psalm 80 verse 8, meaning they've taken the vine out to Egypt, Israel, and planted it in Canaan. Well, it's like he's taken us out of a lot of things. Mm-hmm. He's taken us out of a lot of things, occupationally, religiously, geographically. I mean, we've been brought out body, soul, and spirit, you know, and we're still held in his hands, the two hands. 55 is tender mercy. So that's why we always say the tender mercy of God. We've been carried and growing in the tender mercy hands of God. That's why he's like, I have one last gift to give, and this is it, because after this, I let you go and I plant you in a land of peace, mm-hmm. you know, and so we get that all the time, right? And we're going through this Genesis thing. And so I'm start digging and I start having, you know, getting downloads, you know. So it talks about planted, the idea of he planted a garden in the east, in Eden. We're talking about the Garden of Eden here. I'm like, that's fitting. And then right away, I saw the Lord. I was like, Lord, what is this about? This 800, this fire, what is this about? And I saw what I can only describe as like a tornado of fire that came down like on this Garden of Eden type of scene. It just came down from heaven. Hello, I'm talking about heavenly things. God was already setting us up to talk about heavenly stuff. It came down from heaven like a tornado that touches down. But it was weird. It was like it came down and then it started slithering through the garden. I was like, oh, that's not good. That's the devil. It was like no, it's not. Because, you know, you see that snake and you think, oh, that's the enemy, right? It's like, no. And so I just felt like the Lord said, there's a fire that is going to guard and surround the garden. Basically, this garden place that God's going to create in our lives, I'm going to surround it with fire, but I'm also going to be patrolling it through and through to make sure nothing's going on within and nothing's going to try to come in on you, mm-hmm. you know. And I'm just like, wow. Which is kind of
like with the Israelites when they left Egypt. The Lord had like the fire. There was like a literal like
pillar of fire.
The pillar of fire that blocked. It was like a literal firewall that blocked the Egyptians from, you know, as they were waiting for the waters to part. Like it kept them and held them back. The whole time, so they could never actually get to them.
Try to pick them off.
Yeah.
They did nothing but just follow the Lord, and the mm-hmm. Lord himself took care of the enemies. Ooh, I'm getting ahead of myself there too. Bookmark that statement. And so the Lord gave me this vision one time of us being on the property of the land that we're believing for, the house we're believing for. It's just so crazy. I love this story. And I was literally in the driveway. We were living in this house, and this lady just comes up. You can tell she's full of the devil. I mean, demon possessed. You know, you can just tell she's walking, because she's looking drunk, but you can tell she's kind of looking all weird. And I'm in the vision, I'm standing on the driveway, and I'm talking to, I believe it's like a neighbor, because I don't think he was a believer, but he's like, man, I don't want to have any issues with you guys because it's clear. I don't know what it was. I really don't. It was the presence of God. It had to be. And so I'm talking to this guy, and this lady just comes. It was so weird. She literally looked like she was just flat out drunk out of her mind. But I could tell in the spirit, I was like, this is a demonic attack. Just suddenly here it comes. She's walking up to us. And we both just kind of look at her. We look at each other, and we're like, "What's going on?" Like, and as soon as she stepped onto the property, she just fell down, and she just starts writhing. And we're both looking, and I'm just like, "Oh, I know exactly what that is." And then the vision stopped, And so I felt like the Lord reminded me of that when He said, "That's why you see the demonic woman fall and writhe when she takes a step onto the property." Lord said she hit the firewall. Like you just said.
Yeah.
She hit the firewall and began to burn up. That spirit. See, when a spirit in a person makes contact with the Holy Spirit, there's going to be an effect. I've seen it happen so many times, where a lot of times I don't even know what's going on. People are just coming up to me, and they're just having these reactions, you know what I mean? And it's just like, what's going on? But now the Lord's taught me, it's like, that's the spirit in them. That demonic spirit in them is just bothered by the Spirit of God in you, because you're in the Spirit, you're shining like the sun, and they're being burned up. They're freaking out, So I felt like the Lord said, the fire is my zealous love. And He reminded me of zeal for my house shall consume me. Like a hen lays on her eggs, or like a mother bear protecting her cubs. Like that. Those are the pictures. God's like, that's what I'm talking about. Like, that's what that fire is. Like, I'm not going to let anybody get next to you. Someone's going to try to raise up and come at you. They're coming at me. And it's just like, I'm going to show them who's boss. So covenant love is a fiery passion, and the Lord reminded me of the Revelation where it talks about His eyes being like fire. And it's what people mean when they say they are in love. It's like, oh, I love you, or I am in love with you. There's a difference, right? I am in love with you. Okay, back to the video. It's like their passion is turned up to its hottest degree. It's barely containable. It's the kind of love that a bride and groom in righteousness share. It's like, this is the love that will surround you. It surrounds you even now. You just can't feel it. And the Lord's like, and the Lord's like this. It's like, it surrounds you even now. You just can't feel it. All a part of the plan. I was like, what? Because the Lord's like, listen, if you were to feel what I'm saying, I would not be able to do what I've been able to do this whole time. You couldn't. No one's going to go to Disney World and start doing boot camp. You just can't. You have to have the right environment for the thing that you're trying to do, and then you move environments to suit what you're trying to do.
Yeah. And when you're in boot camp, it's a lot of you're being taken out of the comfort, and so and the Lord's really done that. He's like, I'm taking you out of everything comfortable so that you can
be stripped down.
And just find comfort in Him. And that was actually something I heard earlier this week. I was listening to Dutch Sheets, and he was talking about, it's always hard for me to say his name, but
Dutch Sheets. I'm like, his name it's got a "utch" in it.
I know.
His name isn't Duth. He ain't from Duluth.
But he was talking about just how the Lord, he removes you. He's been removing people from their comfort zones to find comfort in Him. But His comfort has been uncomfortable because you've had to adjust, and you'd have to, get molded into a different way. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, that's been our story this whole time of just how the Lord's like, I've taken you out and I'm molding
taking you out of your comfort into mine. There's a transition there.
Yeah. And just like what it truly means to have the Lord as your comfort and just bring, just revelation and just like, wow, this is what the Lord is really talking about. And so much of the time that's really been a lot of the tearing down, stripping down. It's like,
everything.
This is your idea of what it means when the Lord says this. Now this is what he truly means. And that's what we want. Our hearts are like, Lord, we want to know you. But in order to know you, we have to get rid of the ideas of who we think you are.
And that takes time. You just can't rush that. You can't hurry up that kind of thing, And I believe there's going to be an acceleration. The Lord gave us a word that there was going to be acceleration in our lives. Now, a lot of this stuff is testimonial type stuff, but, the whole point of a testimony is like, wow, if he did it for this person, he could do it for me. Sounds like a song. And for us, he said, like, because of what you've gone through and you've allowed me to do this, in this next coming season, he was speaking about the prepare to live like kings thing. Well, we were getting words from that back in 2019.
Yeah.
It's like in this king season, you're going to grow 10 years in 1 year because you've allowed me to see that, because there's nothing in the way of that growth happening.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, wow. You don't see that when you're going through it. You don't even hear that promise a lot of times when you're going through it. But you just have to know that God has got a great, great plan, a great promise, he's got a great fill in the blank for everything about you and your life. Even if there is pain on the journey and heartbreak and loss of loved ones, his plan is still good. And it's amazing. So you just got to trust the Lord and just let him do what he wants to do, and just know that his plan is good. If you're deaf to it, blind to it, numb to it, it's okay. God's like, it's all a part of the plan. I don't want you to feel the glory yet. Because once you feel it, there's no going back.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so are we going to transition to today?
Yes.
So today, this was that moment when my son wakes up at exactly 8, and I'm like, he makes me take him to that microwave there, and he looks at it, and it's just like, it's exactly 8. And I'm sitting there going, what in the world? And it changes to 8:01. Right then. I'm like, wow. Dude. So, you literally only have 1 second to see that transition. You know what I mean? And how many times have we seen that?
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen. And so I was like, wow, okay, the Lord is asking me to dig into this thing. And I'm just like, okay, so he's the sign of the promise. And he's waking up every day at 8. There's a fire there. 800 also means covenant. So there's a covenant fire there. I'm like, Lord, protect me if I'm going off the track here, but you told me to do it this way, so this is the way I'm doing it. And so the one summation statement I got from that is like, fire is a sign of the covenant. Fire falling on the sacrifice is God showing his approval. Bring your stuff, I'll bring my stuff. Whatever God answers by fire, let him be God. Because I know y'all ain't gonna work. So much of the stuff going on in our nation right now, I'm going, that is Baal worship. I'm not kidding you, man. Baal worship is taking over. It is completely taken over, but God's just like, no, go ahead. Just wait till evening. Just wait, just wait. It's just like, it's such a joke. It's such a travesty what's happening. It's like, just wait. And then evening comes, and Elijah says, here you go. We're going to make this. We're going to rebuild the altar. We're going to pour some impossibility 3 times on this offering. And God's he's just making it so impossible. He's going to show I'm God. You can't be the creation and try to manipulate and push around the creator. All you're doing is testing his patience and giving yourselves actually an opportunity to experience his mercy. Yeah. That's really the truth, But when the fire did fall on Elijah's sacrifice, it showed, I'm with this guy. Mm-hmm. And it freaked everybody out. Everyone was terrified, you know. And so for us, these past 3.5 years, the Lord's like, don't you understand what's been going on here, Devin? Mm-hmm. Man, you guys have been, you know, I've been using you to build the altar. You know, I've been cutting up the ox. I've been laying everything in order. I've been pouring impossibility on the fire. The stuff's supposed to be set on fire. I've been pouring water on it this whole time. Mm-hmm. This whole 3.5 years. That's what I've been doing. And I am about to show up in fire, especially now because we've reached that 42-month mark. We've reached that 3.5-year mark. We've reached that third day. Now we're going into heaven. We're going to see what heaven's about to do. What's about to happen in heaven? Well, fire's coming. Thunder is coming. Jesus is coming. The presence of God is coming. He's about to come and consume all of it. Mm-hmm. All of it. Okay? I just really got ahead of myself there, but I think it was the Spirit of the Lord. Anyway. So fire from a burnt offering shows our thanksgiving. So there's a thanksgiving. That's a fire, and the Lord smells it. And, ooh, I smell that heart. I smell that humility. I smell that thanksgiving. I just love it. It's so awesome. That's why when he was smelling complaining, he was like, oh, that stinks. Mm-hmm. Wow, these Israelites, they really reek of complaining and selfishness. They're not, after all I did for them, they still stink. Man, that's terrible. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? After all that, you know. So when God smells this, he loves it. But both interactions lead to a intimate relationship with each other. You know, when you're giving to the Lord and then his presence falls upon you, it's okay if you yawn. You have this weird face when you're trying to hold your yawns in. And so fire came down, fire went up. Mm-hmm. God's heart was touched, and he extended a covenant of mercy through his outstretched hand to do miraculous things. You know, Lord, Mark 1:41, Lord, if you're willing, you know, you can make me clean, said the leper. Mm-hmm. And the Lord, it says his heart was touched deep. Very deep, that G901, very deep, and because he was touched so deeply, it says he reached out and touched, and said, "I am willing, be made clean." See, oh, glory to God! I believe the Lord is about to do that. The Lord's like, my fire's gonna come. That's gonna be my hand reaching out and saying, "I am willing, be made clean." And it's just like, well, I was kind of thinking that you would have done this back in mid-2017 when you showed me this revelation. You know.
Well, and I think actually that was something I wanted to talk about. Is I feel like
you want to talk?
Oh. No, just the idea of just how the Lord has talked about the night and the day, and just like it, to me, it makes a lot of sense now. It's like we really have been in the night, in the sense that at night it's almost like that's the gathering, you're in the dark, so to speak. It's like you're just learning
even
all these
on Revelation
things. But then it's like once you come into the light, it's like you can really see and you can start to apply. You know, so many times, like even with schooling, you have a time where you're just getting a lot of book knowledge, and it's like you're just okay, I'm learning, but until the time comes to apply it, you know, it's like there's that transitional place, and then you start really applying it. You take what you've learned and you actually use it in life, and it's just like, oh, there's even more revelation as you go through that process. And I feel like for us, really, you know, for these last 3.5 years in Nashville, but even before that, it was just like the Lord was like giving us lots and lots of revelation, but we were always missing the time frame. We were always missing the application of it. And I feel like we're getting ready now. The Lord's like, I'm crossing you into the day where you're going to be able to take the revelation that you've given and then apply it and go forward with it, because now is the time.
You're going to be able to see.
You have, remember I gave you all that bag of seed? Okay, well now we're going to take all of this seed that you've been stored up, and now is the time. Okay, now we're going to plant. Let's go. And it's just like, oh, this makes sense now. And like this whole time, it's like we're getting the seed, and it's like, do you want us to plant it now? How about now? Is this the land? What are we doing? And it's like, the Lord's like, not yet. Keep holding on to it. Keep holding on to it.
Here we go. We're coming up on some land. Land? Seed. Let's get it out. Is this now the time? No.
Yeah.
Man.
It's like, I thought you said we were going to plant seed in the land. I thought this was the moment. And it's like, it will come. Like just trust me. Trust me that when it comes the time, when all that revelation is like, you will be able to release it.
That's that mirage effect. You go thinking there's water, and it's just like, what? It should be right here. And it seems like it's just as far away as it was before. Oh, that was a mirage.
Yeah.
Or as Bugs used to say, Bugs Bunny, it's a mirage.
But it's like, I just think that for us, I'm like, wow, that really for me has brought some clarification.
Yeah.
It's like, Lord, you've been speaking all of these things like this whole time.
The whole time.
And we've been in the night thinking, this is the time. It's now the time. It's now the time. How about this time? And the Lord's just like, just keep receiving my revelation, keep collecting it, keep going through it. He knew everything we were going to go through, as far as even just heart-wise, the pain that, that is caused by just thinking like, it's now.
It's the unavoidable journey.
Yeah. And and the Lord's just like, don't worry, like just wait. And I feel like now, during this time even of him bringing so much revelation, it's like
this Genesis time that we've been doing.
Genesis time that we've been doing. It really is like he's really getting ready to send us into a season of learning the wisdom. Everything we've been reflecting. It's like the moon reflecting the light. It's like all of that is like, now we're going to come onto the other side, and it's like we're in the light. And so there is just that time of learning how to be kings, time to learn how all of the revelation that God has given us is now applied in just greater ways of authority and walking in it.
Yeah, and you need wisdom when things are really exciting and things are really happening and things are popping, and now you got like a bunch of responsibilities and duties and expectations, and your whole life is planned out. You know what I mean? You got, you know what I'm saying? It's like you need the wisdom of God, because I remember when I was a caseworker, when you're a caseworker in an atmosphere of crisis, everything's an emergency and everything's a crisis. So it's like, well, which one do I take care of first if everything is a crisis? And it's very stressful. And it's like, well, what do I do? Well, you need the wisdom of God in that kind of situation, So it's like, that's why you need it.
Yeah. So I'm really excited and looking forward to just seeing how the Lord takes all of these things that He's sown into our hearts and just brings it forth.
Yeah.
So it will be
cool.
That's why I think it's going to be amazing to see how we gain the wisdom and understanding.
Yeah, so we want to go back into this?
Yes.
Okay, so the Spirit of God, we're talking about fire. I felt like the Lord said the Spirit of God is the fire. And we're going to be salted with the Spirit of God to awaken, cleanse, prepare, and serve. If you look at Mark 9:49, it says that everyone will be salted with fire. Luke 12:49, he talks about a fire. Jesus talks about a fire that he wants to kindle. But he's like, I wish I could kindle it right now, but it's not the time for it yet. So even the release of that fire has a time stamp, but when it does, it's going to be just like, woohoo! It's going to be like the day of Pentecost. Tongues of fire.
Yep.
That was the time. That was the time he was talking about. Jesus had to wait until then to see it happen. But it did happen. And those tongues of fire, what did they represent? You belong to me.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of Isaiah 66:14, where it talks about the powerful hand of the Lord will be shown to be with his servants, but his indignation against his adversaries. And I believe we're going to see that in this upcoming move of God. We're going to see, again, we've been talking about that for 3.5 years too, about there's going to be a great separation, and there's going to be darkness and death and mayhem and fire and smoke in the valley, while the people who have escaped to the mountain, who belong to the Lord, they're just going to be witnessing it. It's going to be a Psalm 91 moment for them, because it's going to be crazy. It's going to be chaos, but in the midst of chaos, on the backdrop of chaos, there's going to be party and festival and just happiness happening on the mountain of the Lord, And so this was kind of like a question I was posing to myself. Should I just read it the way it is in the question form?
Sure.
It's like, is this happening now to the sign of the promise, our son who keeps getting up at 8 with the fire and the covenant and everything? Is this happening now to the sign of the promise as a sign that your fire is or is about to fall on our prayers and consume the entirety of our priestly time as one big offering? Even the dust, even the dust of the wilderness is going to be consumed in what God's getting ready to do. He's getting ready. So what does that fire represent? It represents God doing a out of this world miraculous thing in the lives of his people that makes everything he's done before just like, wow.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so that even so I'll just keep reading. So priests offer sacrifices, and that's what we've been in this priestly time. This entire priestly time has been a laying on the altar. We literally just did a video about that a couple weeks ago or something, where we were like, we just feel like we're dead. We're just laying in the sand, laying on the altar, just going, you guys okay over there? Not really. Yeah, me neither. Just, waiting for the fire to fall, So I'll just start from the beginning because our camera ran out of time. We just have to click this thing off and on every 12 minutes. I don't know why it won't just continually play, but whatever. Says this entire priestly time has been a laying on the altar, a dying, a serving, a collection of tears, prayers, heartache, and praise. Wow, what a gumbo. You know what I'm saying? You can put some tears in it. Now let's put some prayers in there. Yeah. Ooh, put a little bit of this heartache in there. Ooh. Here, put some praise in it. Ooh, that's going to cook up something nice. It's like, God's like, I'm going to eat that. I'm going to consume every little bit of that. That was good. That was good. You got any more? No, I don't. I'm just kidding. Give me my tip. No, I'm just kidding. and get out my restaurant. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, so are you about to... So I was asking the Lord, I was like, are you about to finally show your approval by granting the desires of our heart? Because that's really what we're talking about here. Just, Lord, if you're willing, make me clean. Lord, if you're willing, turn our wilderness into a garden of the Lord. Lord, if you're willing, allow my wife to open her mouth and yawn properly. Lord, if you're willing. So it's about a mercy. And it's about fireworks. That was one thing the Lord gave us too, is about fireworks. And he was talking about the end. He's like, the end of this thing, this time of reversing that I'm doing, which we didn't know was going to be 3.5 years. But it's like the end, it's going to end with fireworks. And here the Lord's talking about fire right now during this time. I'm just like, wow. And I felt like the Lord said it's going to be an epic pleasure display of God's approval of our priestly sacrifice. Not just us, but everybody who's been on the crazy journey that they've been on. It's just like, probably everybody in the church is going to think I'm crazy for living my life like this, but whatever. You know, I'm in the ancient way, the way that God approves, you know. And I felt like the Lord reminded me of like not even the smell of smoke was on the 3 Hebrew guys who came out. They didn't even smell of smoke. So I felt like the Lord was like, not even the dust of the wilderness will survive in our hearts.
Yeah.
He's like, not even that. Well, he's like, I'm going to lick up the dust. I'm going to lick up everything. Yeah. There's not going to be any residual pain. I just feel led to read this scripture real quick. There's not going to be any residual pain. There's not going to be any earnestly remembering of anything. You're going to be so saturated in the glory and goodness of God. It's just your whole heart and life's just going to change dramatically. That's what happens when you put dramatic and drastic. It's dramatically. Who's ready for a dramatic change? I'm ready to be so messed up that just my words don't even come out right, but I'm feeling good. But anyway. So Isaiah 61 verse 7 says, instead of your former shame, you shall have a twofold recompense. Instead of dishonor and reproach, your people shall rejoice in their portion. Therefore, in their land they shall possess double what they had forfeited. Everlasting joy shall be theirs, because you've forfeited a lot of things to go on this journey. Now, I know in there it doesn't say like, you know, don't earnestly remember or whatever, but basically what the Lord is doing, like especially if you read Zephaniah 3, 14 through 20, it's like when God moves, he's like, and in that time, I'm going to do this. In that time, I'm going to do. He's going to just wipe away all of your shame. Do you think Ruth and Naomi were still feeling a tinge of heartache after everything that God did through Boaz? No way.
Yeah.
They were like, it was a divine reversing, and it was a process. And it's like, we've gone through that process. You know, God gave me that word. And I tell the story all the time. God gave me that word in, was it May of 2017? It's time for everything to be reversed. I had 38 subscribers that day. 38. And I was just still doing videos by myself at that time. It's like, it's time for everything to be reversed. Now, sometimes a God, he in that particular case, God was giving me a word of something that he was already in the process of doing. And now the LaVores were in their 5th month of this process, and the Lord gave the word to Devin. It had already been 5 months in the process, or 4.5 months in the process of this reversing that he was working, that he started when we got, because we went on Christmas vacation in December 2016. When we got back in 2017, that whole year in Kansas City was just preparation to come here to Nashville. And at the end of that, now see, this is a small little example, but at the end of that journey, we're staring at a financial wall, and the Lord blesses us with an amount of money we have not, gosh, I mean, it was crazy. It was on that brink of impossibility for us. I was like, wow, that's amazing. And Michelle was doing terrible that day. And then I'm just like, well, I don't know how to encourage her. I'm not feeling great myself. We're looking at about 2 days before we're literally staring at a wall. And I was like, check my PayPal. And I was like, I freaked out. And I was like, Michelle, get in here. Come in here. Look at, And she looked at it and she was like, well, I guess we're going to Nashville. Because I was like, what does that mean? And she was like, that means we're moving to Nashville. That's what that means. And then listen, everything changed just like that. Our hearts changed. Our view changed. Our understanding of God's ability to provide for himself, the ram, was just like, wow. If God says he's going to do something and we're following him in it, it's him doing it. He doesn't say, hey, I want to do something. Now go ahead and do it, guys. It's all up to you. Why do we think that? Why is that just, it's like ingrained in our sinful DNA. That's why we have to constantly renew our minds according to the word of God, because there's just this trigger that happens like, oh, it's all up to us. How many God times do we lead and we just get triggered like, oh, this is up to us. It is not.
Yeah.
God time is, hey, Lord, here I am. Got anything to say? You know, and it's so unusual. It's so weird. Even after 20-some years of knowing the Lord. How long have I known the Lord? 27 years now. But it's still there. it is still there. Well, because that battle between the flesh and the spirit's still there. And our flesh wants to do it. Our flesh has to perform. Our flesh has to do good so that God can be pleased. And all that's coming out of a fear.
Yeah.
A fearful place. And it just happens. It happens, and you can get 3 miles down the road with it before you realize, wait a minute, I don't even need to travel down this road. What am I doing?
Yeah.
Why am I walking? I have wings. Bye. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I've been walking on these bird legs for 3 miles. I could have been flying this whole time. I don't know what was going on in there. You know what I mean? It's like the performance just kicks in like crazy. And so, so we started that. In 2017, it's like this whole journey. And it's just like, wow, it's like God's getting ready to send his fire on this whole. It's like, God's like, don't you understand, Devin? That's what I've been doing. Like every year you've been in Nashville, it's just been a pouring on of the water. You thought you were going to get to the end of, like you did in 2017. It was a miracle. And you get to the end of 2018 and it's like 2019. Oh, well, okay. It's like, well, do it again. It's like, all right, cool, let's do it. Now, when the Lord's saying do it again, he's talking about a whole year of life. Mm-hmm. That's not funny. It's like, that's a whole year of life, Mm-hmm. And you get to the end of 2019, and it's just like, oh, this has got to be it, right? The time. Speaking of the time frames, and it's just like 2020. Oh, great. It was another pouring of the water, right? Mm-hmm. So 2020 hits, though, and God just starts to move and do some stuff, and then COVID-19 hits. I'm like, well, if this isn't the most demonic thing I've ever seen splashed across the globe, I'm like, God, you about ready to splash yourself in response, aren't you? Like, you about ready to just come down in a Pentecostal kind of way and change the world. Oh, God's like, oh, that was your splash? COVID-19, that's it? That's what you got? Oh, watch what I'm about. Here, my turn. My move. Mm-hmm. Watch what I'm about to splash. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? But still, even at the end of 2020, because we're getting this whole... 2020, that was the pregnancy promise process, right? Yeah. And the Sarah, you're pregnant with the promise. And it's like, oh, okay, well, then there you go. There you go. Okay, come on, this has got to be it, right? You get to the end of 2020. Toward the end of 2020, we move here on October 18th, by the way. Hello. The 18s are following us, aren't they?
Yeah.
And it's just like, all right, we're in the delivery room, woo. And we're getting undeniable prophetic visions and revelations and words from the Lord, right? I mean, it was undeniable. And it's just like a doctor in the delivery room delivering a baby and all that. We're waiting. Man, that was 8 months ago. And I'm just like, what in the world? You see there? You see what God's doing? He knows the time frame. See, the prayers and the praise, that's the encouraging part, right? Mm-hmm. But it's the keeping you going, waiting on and on and on. That's the sorrow and heartache. And so God takes all of those and puts it into that stew. Mm-hmm. He puts it in and he mixes it together to create this thing that just helps you out because he knows the time frame. Yeah. He knows it's 3.5 years. You can pray all you want. And year 2, it's not time for rain yet. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Well, when it's time for rain, look at what happened. It was in such abundance that just he was like, you better get up to a high place because it's about to deluge. Yeah. That was another word the Lord gave me in 2017. Deluge, deluge, deluge. 3 times. And so we've gone through this whole process, and it's just like we just really feel like that's what the Lord's saying. There's going to be a fire that comes down. Even though the last 3 years have just been buckets of impossibility and timing and waiting, the weight of the weight just poured on the expectation of the promise and and it's just like, wow. And we get to that broken place where we just go, Lord, here we are. Mm-hmm. We've done all of this at your word. Yeah. So that's kind of been like our week. I remember I was like, well, what is our Act 2 Scene 10 gonna be? Well, God's like, I've got enough food in the storage to, show you more stuff.
So I think that's all that we have for you guys today. And, just that the Lord is bringing his fire. His fire is going to just consume the sacrifice, but his fire is also going to protect us as he moves us into the garden.
Yeah.
I just thought that was just such a
wow. Yeah.
a relief, and just just that the Lord, he's like, I am going to protect you. He will be our firewall as we move forward into the garden. And
cool?
And then also just as a reminder, I know it was probably 50 minutes ago on this video, but just that on verse 14, the Lord was talking about the sun representing his wisdom and the moon representing his revelation, and those are going to be continually with us as a covenant promise from the Lord.
Come on.
And he's going to be the one that through his spirit and his word will write himself upon our hearts. And so just to be reminded of that as well. And so until next time, we will see you guys later.
Tomorrow.
Yay. Bye.
Bye-bye.